So for our surveillance data assignment, I live in Oregon State. I live in Portland, and Oregon doesn't do params. So I went ahead and used Washington State as my community, since Portland, Oregon is like, at least where I live, is like 4, maybe 5 miles from the Washington border. It's safe to say our populations are different, but there are a few commonalities that we share. So I decided Washington would probably be the best state to use. So for question one, the three interrelated indicators that I use for maternal and child health are experiencing intimate partner violence during pregnancy by a husband or partner and or by an ex-husband or ex-partner, self-reported depression during pregnancy, and self-reported postpartum depressive symptoms. So question two asks for us to describe any indicator or each indicator and clarify how they're associated with one another. I think it's safe to say that each of these has had a massive uptick since the COVID-19 pandemic, since we were all essentially sequestered inside to flatten the curve, and reaching out to our loved ones and having our bubble of safe people was really cut down to practically our intimate partners. I think that just goes to show that the amount of cases that have been self-reported or not even self-reported, but just reported in general of intimate partner violence during that time and continue to be upticking in this current data is an indicator of things that we're still keeping an eye of now. And then they obviously relate to self-reported cases of depression during pregnancy and postpartum depressive symptoms. When you're cut off from your loved ones and your support system and you're being abused in some capacity, especially while being pregnant, it would definitely lend itself to postpartum mood disorders and or just being in a depressive state. So for number three, it asks us to consider how these health indicators pertain to epidemiology and surveillance. And, COVID-19 was an epidemic in terms of how it changed our surveillance. Because of the pandemic, we have been further able to kind of modify and grow our surveillance systems to show current numbers. I know that params only goes to 2021, but I think the COVID-19 pandemic was not that long ago, honestly. And so I think that it'll be interesting to really see how drastic these numbers are after proper surveillance is done in the next 10 years or so, because we're still learning about, the outcomes of the pandemic and what that means on our communities and families. Number four, it asks us, are the chosen health indicators reflective of an epidemic in my chosen population state? So again, since I don't live and practice in Washington, I'm going to just assume that because of distance, I can maybe lump them together. But I, as a midwifery student, have noticed that my preceptor in particular is very, very, very on top of talking to our clients about postpartum mood disorders, about, using the GAD, the EPDS, to establish a baseline early in pregnancy, and then to continue that throughout the pregnancy and at the end, and to have open conversations about what postpartum mood disorders can look like. Because of this, we've noticed a lot of people who have lost their jobs or, with the government being the way it is right now, don't have the financial resources to support themselves and or a baby, or their partners are giving them a lot of stress because they're not able to be on the same bracket of wealth. And so it's something that we think is epidemic in our region, but I think it's safe to say that that's probably happening everywhere. But again, I don't want to assume, but I do know that in Portland, a lot of the midwives in our community are talking about not specifically intimate partner violence, but more about depressive states with our clients coming into care. So number five asks how could we incorporate these findings into our clinical and public health decision-making as a midwife. Kind of what I just said, we just incorporate the talking about depression, anxiety, all these different mood disorders that can occur during the pregnancy and the antepartum period and in the immediate postpartum. We try to talk about them as openly and honestly pretty early if our client, of course, is like open to the conversation and it pertains to their care. If it's not something that pertains to their care, we still talk about it, but more in like a general sense, just to know that they have the resources and they have us as, providers, if that time were to ever come, that we have things to help them find proper care. So I just say we start talking about it earlier in our care during the the prenatal period. And do I see how I could use this data related to these 3 indicators in the future to investigate trends, patterns, or effectiveness in interventions in my community? Yes. Again, I think having this data only to 2021 is going to be really interesting when we get 2022, 2023, 2024, and probably now, given the current state of our political climate, I'd be really interested to see what this looks like in, again, the next 10 years. So I think it's really helpful now to see the trend and to see how things have moved since 2016. They've definitely moved upwards, unfortunately, in a lot of negative ways. It's not fun to see intimate partner violence getting more prevalent, or depression or postpartum mood disorders. So I'd be really interested to see what this is going to do in the next 10 years. Thanks.